everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Crunching Your Growth with me, Phil Masiello, your host. And tonight we have a young entrepreneur. It's early stage, but why I thought it was important to have him on. Certainly early stage, we can all learn from and understand why, how, what they're going through. But what I think is interesting is Jared Kelnhofer, who's the guest. He actually has been doing programming for about 10 years, and he tried a couple of other businesses. And most people, you try a couple of businesses, it doesn't work out. And what do you think people do? Most of the time they walk away and they say, okay, this isn't for me. I'm going to go get a job and I'll be perfectly happy. But Jared didn't do that. Instead, what he did was he kept going at it and trying it again. So I think that's an important message and an important lesson, because a lot of times people, certainly you can learn from your mistakes, you can learn from failure, but I think a lot of times people miss the dream that they have because they hit a couple of obstacles and they just walk away and put their hands up and say, I can't do it again. And certainly this is an example of somebody who's persevering and trying to get it done and has an idea of what he wants to be and is visualizing his life. So I thought it was important, even though, again, his business is early stage, but that's okay, right? We're going to hear how he started, where he's going, how he's going to try and scale it. And a year from now, it could be different. We'll have him on a year from now and we'll talk to him just like we've done with some others early stage guys that have been on. So let's bring him in and we'll hear his story and we'll hear why it's interesting to me anyway. Jared, thanks for being on.
Thanks for having me, Phil.
Sure. I appreciate it. So you're in Washington State, right?
Yeah, I'm in Spokane, Washington.
Yes,
I just moved here.
Yeah. So why don't you take us back, give us a little brief about your history, where you're going, what you've done, college, where you got the spark, your programming, what you've done with that, and how you've got to where you are today.
Sure. So, I mean, I've been trying to do businesses for quite a while, but I only started taking it really seriously and putting lots of time into it about 2 years ago. And at that time I was in college. I graduated this past semester, whatever month I graduated. I kind of forgot, but I started 2 years ago working on a AI generated t-shirt company called Pix Genie. The whole pitch was, you show up on our website, you can type in exactly what you want your t-shirt to look like, and we'll ship it to you. It'll land on your doorstep within 10 days. And it worked. I got a couple sales here and there, but that one ended up kind of going belly up. The product just wasn't good enough. There wasn't enough demand. And so I kind of stayed in that space, the apparel, because I had learned a lot about designing t-shirts and the t-shirt industry. I tried a couple of B2B plays with some software, and eventually I landed on UltraQuote, which is the latest iteration of that. And I've been working on UltraQuote full time ever since I graduated college. While I was in college, actually, I quit my job to work on UltraQuote full time, and I kind of ignored a lot of my studies, but I got the degree and now I'm working on it full time.
What were you doing with the t-shirts? You were taking the orders and I guess you were drop shipping somewhere, pushing them off to a t-shirt person?
Sort of. So customers would show up and they would say that, okay, I want to add a dog in a field of flowers, and maybe the dog's blue, and they'd type that into the AI and it would create the picture. And then, because most AI generated images are, 1024 by 1024 pixels or so, I would run them through a process that vectorized them and made them infinitely scalable without losing any quality. So, because you can't really print off most AI generated images on a t-shirt because they're just too small. So I fixed that problem, and then I would send that off to a third party and they would print the shirt, manufacture it, fulfill it. I would just basically bring them orders and they would do all the handling of the actual physical product.
Yeah. Was that somebody you knew, or was it just an online?
No, it's a bigger company called Printify. Actually, they have an API that you can tie into. So I would send them, hey, this is the shirt, this is where it's going. And I would just it was pretty much hands off. I never had to touch it once I built it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm not. We talk about this a lot on this show because everybody talks about AI, and I'm a big fan of AI, and we've been using it in the agency for years. Mostly for content, but also for data analysis
Mhm.
with ads and things like that. And the one piece that I've struggled with, and we have struggled with for the last year, is imagery and video. There's we're never satisfied with the images that come out of any of the GPTs that create images. It just doesn't look great, especially if most of the businesses we're in, or most of the clients we have, are consumer product companies, and so it doesn't do well. And I know that there's a lot of image generators out there that say, okay, we'll take a picture of your product and we'll create, but then it just looks like you photoshopped a product. The light sources don't match. It just silly things, but it doesn't resonate with customers. I think it's going to get there one day, but not
Mhm.
for us right now. And we've tried video too. I think there's a couple of good video generators out there that do a really good job. And I think they would do a really good job for industrial, real estate, and coaches. But other than that, consumer products or things like that, it's very difficult. But
There's a yeah, there's a couple AI image generators that do the product photography as a service. I know one of them raised about 5 million recently, Flare, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
there's Glorify as well. But then, did you ever have a problem with branding with your images? You're like, well, the colors are different across all these generations. Was that ever a problem for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What we I used one time. Just we were playing around with it. We continue to. I mean, all the ones you named we've tried, and you can take an image, but it distorts the brand. It distorts what's on there, and then it changes the colors, and it just sort of puts the product into what it thinks it needs to be, even if you can be very specific about it. But it comes out it just looks like a photoshopped product image, and that's not really. I think it has to be more authentic to make a
Sure.
connection with the user. I mean, as far as product photography goes, if you're doing things on Amazon, you're doing things on a website, you need an image, and it has to be on a white background. So you have to take photography for that. You can't just tell AI to create your image and put it on a white background. But then when you start to talk about in-use images, you really need to do those with photography. You need to show somebody using the product, especially for consumer products. But we've used some ad generators that have done things with the products that have created sort of ad type images, and that works. But I just haven't been happy, and I've said it a million times on this show. I'm just not happy with the image generators, and a lot of people are. A lot of people do a lot of great things. I have a friend who started a book. Essentially, it's for children. The child goes into the app and puts in the basic fundamentals of a story he wants to write, and then what he wants to be, if he wants to be a superhero or whatever, and then it will create the book. And those images are kind of cool because they can be sort of cartoony.
Does it put the kid in the book too as the
Yeah, yeah,
character? I
yeah. He
had that
puts
idea.
himself in.
I almost did that instead of Pix Genie, actually. I was like, dude, you could put your kids in their own storybook and they could grow up with it. That'd be so sick.
Yeah, and he's doing it, and
That's awesome.
but there's plenty of room for that. And then what happens is, if you want the story read to you by your mom. Let's say your mom is traveling
Hmm.
for work or something, and she can record her voice or a snippet of her voice in an AI platform, and she can read the book to you, right? AI is just going to take that voice and just continue it. So she can read the book to you, which is kind of cool.
So it's a whole service. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's plenty of room in that, and again, there's not many players. So if you have that idea and you want to pursue it, I'm sure that there's plenty of ways to do it. But yeah, it's interesting. So then you did the t-shirt thing, and now you're into this. Why did you do that? Why did you decide to do this different business?
Well, after the t-shirts, I figured, okay, I know a decent amount about how t-shirts are made, and I know a decent amount about programming and getting what's on the screen to turn into a real life t-shirt, that kind of web to print technology. And that's kind of a niche thing. I mean, the further I go into this, the fewer and fewer people there are who like know what I'm talking about. There's not a lot of people that do web to print. There's not a lot of companies that do that. And then like when you step it down, it just gets more and more niche. And so eventually I stumbled upon a problem that I figured, oh, I can totally solve this because I've kind of got that intersection of programming and also apparel knowledge and also web to print. But I didn't find that for quite a while. I tried to keep on making products and find markets for them instead of doing it in the reverse order. So
Yeah.
I created PixGenie and I put hundreds of hours into building this thing before I had a buying signal. And then after PixGenie, I was like, okay, well, I'm already creating these scalable vector images with AI. Nobody's really doing that right now. I mean, there's more people doing it now, and there's actually some that do it with brand consistent colors, which I think is pretty sick. They're coming out. But at the time, I didn't see that anywhere. And so I was like, I can sell these screen printing shops, people that are already selling shirts, because I'm not selling shirts. I could sell shirts, but I'm not. But I've got software that helps me sell them, you know, if I was getting sales. So I was like, I can give that capability to people that are already selling shirts. And I went and talked to a couple people. I did some door-to-door, just running in with my tool saying like, what do you guys think about this? And I heard a lot of, we don't need that because we have designers already. And I also heard a lot of, if somebody wants to use their logo or they want a very specific thing, your AI generated images are just not going to cut it. Like there was a quality problem. So that one failed. And then I tried to solve a whole suite of problems that these screen printing shops have on the Shopify platform, because a decent amount of them, about 8%, run their websites on Shopify. And I was like, okay, well, I can tie into your distributors. I can make orders happen automatically for you. I can do this, I can do that. And so I created a Shopify app, and that's still active. I'm not pushing that one as hard as what I'm doing right now, because I basically took all of those things that I wanted to offer and I found an even better offer that was smaller, easier to manage, and it's not stuck in just Shopify land. So the current thing that I'm working on is the result of a conversation with a lot of different screen print shop owners. And do you want me to keep talking about what it is?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting to talk about what it is and why you came up with it and why you,
Yeah. So I mostly just did a bunch of conversations and I was like, what do you guys really want? Like, what do you need? What would you actually pay money for? And it turns out that what I was trying to do, which was give them a tool that lets their customers design shirts on their websites and then purchase it then and there, that's not something anybody really needs.
Yeah.
But I was looking through this list because I've got a list of thousands of these guys and their websites. And I was just looking through their websites, just looking for patterns. And I found out everybody has a request a quote form. Like every screen print shop has request a quote. Maybe that's going to be a phone number on their website. Maybe that's like, here's our email. Maybe that's, if they're really fancy, it might be a couple boxes where you can input a file. You can say, this is what I want. And they'll probably list the catalog of the suppliers that they purchase from, but it's pretty low tech and it doesn't give the customers of them a lot to go off of. And so all I did is I said, okay, I'm going to make a one-line code thing that you can plug into any screen printing shop website. And it gives you the world's best request a quote for screen print shop owners. So customers can land on your website and they can see the products you offer. They can design a shirt and they can say, I want this shirt. Maybe it's like a Gildan 5000 or something. I want this shirt and these colors and I want this design on it. And it does checks on their artwork to make sure they don't upload anything that's too small. Like it has to be at least 300 pixels per inch if they're uploading that artwork and sizing it on the shirt.
Right.
So it takes a lot of the back and forth out of getting a quote request, because typically I talked to some of these guys and they said like it might take a week between the time when the customer initially reaches out and when the job actually goes into production, because they're emailing their customers, hey, you uploaded a logo that's too small, or how many shirts do you actually want, or what colors do you want, what sizes do you want? There's just so much back and forth that wastes their time, and that could all happen in the initial customer reach out.
Huh. That's interesting. I would have never. It would never occur to me. I just don't think. I don't know. I just don't think that way about. But I guess you're right. I mean, it's a very fragmented industry, isn't it? And there's a million, like you said, there's a million guys out there. So the market could be big, right?
Yeah, I've got 4,000 potential customers in the U.S. alone.
over time, I guess you'll find from talking to your customers, once you get a couple of customers and they start using it, you'll find additional features to put on and make it better and improve it and do other things. So it are you just provide you're so you're just providing the software or the app, so to speak,
hmm
and are they paying you a monthly for it?
hmm hmm So right now I've got a list of early adopters, and I said, hey, you guys are going to get it for $100 for life flat. And the reason for that is
Hundred
because I
bucks a
wanted,
month or $100
oh, just for
forever?
life, for life. They get it forever. And the reason I gave it for so cheap is because they're telling me what they like and what they don't like about the app as it gets better. And so once they all rant and rave about how amazing it is, then I'm going to sell those subscriptions for a decent amount per month. And then because I'll also have the data on how much time it saves, I'll be able to say, this is your exact ROI, hours saved per week. You know, you're increasing the time or you're decreasing the time between initial reach out and jobs going into production. And you're totally right. I mean, some of the features that I thought people would want, they're just not interested in at
Yeah,
all. And some things that I had never even imagined, I'm having guys ping me like, hey, can you add this? Can you add that? And it's like, oh,
yeah,
well, I'm really glad I started asking you questions before I built the entire app, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think one of the first questions I asked you when we got hooked up was whether or not you had a customer,
hmm
because when you do a startup, and I don't care what the startup is, I always tell people the first thing they start talking to me about is, how am I going to raise capital? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And I say, what you have to worry about is how you're going to get customers. So go out and get somebody who's going to pay you for your product. I don't care what the product is. I don't care if it's a SaaS product. I don't care if it's a book. I don't care if it's a physical product. Find someone who's going to pay you to
hmm
buy your for your product, and then figure out what to do with the product, what works and what doesn't work. Because you could develop something, you could think it's a great idea, then you're out there wasting your time pitching people to try and raise capital, and they're not interested, and you don't have a proven model, you don't have any customers. The first thing that people are going to ask is, do you have any customers? Right? Anytime you speak to an investor, they're going to want to know if you have customers. What are the
hmm
customers saying, and are you be able to expand it? So I think you're doing the right thing with that.
Well, I did the wrong thing quite a few times in a row before I was like, you know what? I'm going to stop burning myself. I'm not going to make it until you pay me. And then because I would send out surveys for Pix Genie, I'd be like, what clothing items do you guys want? I would send out surveys and ads to the guys at college, the girls at college, and it'd be like, I'd get so many responses for these are what we want to buy, but nobody would actually buy. And it's like,
Right.
okay, I'm not going to build something until I see that people are actually handing me dollars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny. No, yeah, it's true, because you go nowhere without customers. I don't know. I've never in my life, unless you are a guy who has founded several businesses, had massive exits,
hmm
and like a guy like Mark Lohr, who founded diapers.com and sold that to Amazon, and then he founded something else and sold that. Now he's on to something else. Those guys can raise a bunch of money without having just on an idea, because people are they're investing in them. They're saying, okay, well, this guy's got a proven track record. But when you're just starting out, and most people can't do that. It takes, and raising capital, and it's come up on this show a lot. In my opinion, people try to raise capital too early. I had a guy on a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the dangers of raising capital, because first of all, people don't realize that you get diluted. You own 100% of
hmm
what you have right now. If
Yeah.
you raise capital and somebody says, okay, well, what's the valuation? You don't have a valuation, because you don't have any revenue yet. Well, you might, but most people don't. So you can't have a valuation. So you're just guessing. And then they say, okay, well, I'm going to give you $500,000, but I want 50% of your business, or 60% or 70%. And the next thing you know, if it's successful, you've just whittled yourself down. Whereas if you take the approach of bootstrapping it for a bit,
hmm
getting clients, getting customers, figuring out the economics, understanding where you want to go, then you can say, well, I have customers, they're paying me, and I have options. So now I can raise capital with a better valuation, and I have a little bit more control. You look at a guy like Kevin Plank, who founded Under Armour. When you look at how Under Armour is structured, by the time he started to raise capital, he was already selling product and he was already building that brand. And so the shares, he has all the control on. There's two classes of shares, and his family owns all the voting rights. So the company is public and people can invest in it, but he controls it still, which is important because I think a lot of people, they go out too early, and he definitely bootstrapped that thing. I mean, I know some of the stories about what he did, sleeping on couches and getting things done, borrowing money, and so you always want to be careful about raising capital. But I think finding customers is always the most important thing.
I believe that. I mean, the dream would be if I could bootstrap this thing all the way, or at least until I'm able to get cheaper money from a bank, instead of giving out equity. That's the dream, but maybe it'll make sense to raise some money. I've been trying not to.
Well, it depends on how you structure the business, right? It depends on how you and what you're trying to achieve, right? And if you think that you have to take a defensive position because you think other entrants are going to be in there, then you might want to say, okay, well, I've got something here and I have to move faster. But then if you've got something and it's to that point and you want to move it faster, well, you're in a better position to raise capital. It's when you're early stage, you don't have everything figured out. You're going out raising capital and you wind up diluting yourself to the point where you just don't have any control. And then if somebody wants to, an investor comes in and then all of a sudden you have a stumble for a month or two and they decide they're going to replace you, then it's no longer your business. Maybe a shareholder, but it's no longer your business.
Yeah, no, I want to build a little empire. I want to make sure that I don't lose control of this thing,
That's how you want to do it. Just keep your head down and keep getting as many. The key is to get as many customers as you can. And if you have revenue and you can hire some people, you hire some people, but just try and keep growing and growing and growing. There's a lot of guys out there, especially in the SaaS world, that were able to do it without raising capital. Look at the guy from Telegram. And,
oh man,
yeah, I mean, whether you like it or not, well, most of those social media platforms, those guys didn't have to raise capital until
he's a billionaire, right?
Yeah. He got arrested in France not too long ago.
I saw that.
Yeah, but they let him out. But all of them, Zuckerberg and all those guys, when they Jack Dorsey, they were in business for quite some time. They had a revenue stream, and the only reason they went out and raised capital was because they needed to move a lot faster so that nobody would copy the idea. Yeah. And so but the timing was great, and they wound up keeping. I think Zuckerberg's another one who's got control pretty much of that company. So, but I agree with you. I've done it both ways. I've made that mistake. I think sometimes raising capital to people is a badge of honor. I know I felt that way early on with one of my startups. I raised capital too early and I thought it was cool. I thought it was, I got this private equity group and they put, 11, 12 million into the business and we're, going. But what you don't realize is how that money comes in, because it's not straight equity. It's usually preferred shares with the coupon for equity. So the preferred shares get paid out when you sell the business or some event happens, and that comes with a coupon. So you're paying interest on those preferred shares, and that gets paid out first, and then they get their common. So
if your valuation goes down, you could get screwed, right?
Oh, you get screwed no matter what. It's just a very expensive loan.
Yeah.
And so but you don't realize it when you're younger and you don't read the documents correctly and you don't do the math in your head, and you wind up thinking that you just, I still have 50% equity or 51% equity, but at the end of the day, you really don't. So, but yeah, and I've done it the other way where I just bootstrap the heck out of it, and that's a lot more fulfilling. Mm-hmm. And then it's a lot more fulfilling to tell people you don't want to raise money, right? You don't, because people start to come to you when they hear about it. You get some press and they come to you and it's like, how much money do you need? We're in. I don't want your money. I don't want your money. And then you can be a little bit more selective. But the thing I did that I stand by with raising cap or getting access to capital to grow or to scale without giving up a lot was strategic partners versus just straight money. So
Mhm.
somebody we were in the skincare business. We had a skincare line, and we needed capital, and we went to our manufacturer and essentially made our manufacturer the partner. And then it became a better business because now we had a manufacturer who's got a vested interest. So we come first in his world. So we never had problems with making sure that we had orders on time, things like that.
So did you just give them some equity, or was there also some like preferred pricing on manufacturing, stuff like that going on?
Oh, we had all kinds of great stuff. Yeah, we gave them equity. But really what we were doing shopping channel business. We started out on the shopping channels, HSN, Canada, and around the world. And so the shopping channel business, very clean business. Manufacturer, right? You get a purchase order. You got 3 months to fill that purchase order. You ship the products in. Those guys are A+ payers. They don't hold back money, and so it's low risk. And so
Mhm.
what we needed was the manufacturer essentially to produce the product without us paying them,
Mhm.
produce the product, ship the product to HSN. They would get paid from HSN, and then they would pay off whatever we owed, and then we would get the difference. And
Gotcha.
so they were actually it was sort of like factoring, except they weren't taking a percentage. And also they were we gave them equity to in exchange for doing that service for us, and also for they were doing our pick, pack, and ship for e-commerce, and we were doing Amazon as well. So they were handling FBA. So they were essentially our warehouse, our manufacturer,
Mhm.
our our third-party logistics provider. So it was and customer service. So it was all that. It was helping us to scale. So all we had to do was go out and market, which is all they wanted, because they're a manufacturer. They don't want to be sitting with product. They want the
Right.
product to turn. And so uh, it turned out to be a great thing.
Now, when they had all the endpoints, they had created the thing and they also took it to where it needed to go and they collected the payment. How did you keep them from cutting you out? I'm assuming you had some sort of legal thing there going on, like, hey,
Well, they
we've got a
couldn't. We're the
trademark on
brand.
this, or
Well, they
what was
couldn't. We're the brand. They couldn't cut us out. We own the brand.
you? Okay.
We're the brand. So we had we built the brand. The brand we got. Our company got a deal to go on Home Shopping Network. They didn't get that deal. We had a
Ah,
celebrity who was a partner in the business, who was the face of the brand. So we got the deal, and we own the brand. We own the business. So they couldn't go and say, "Well, we're going to sell you, Raw Essentials by Carol Alt." They couldn't do it. How could they
right,
do that?
right. They couldn't manufacture it without you telling them to, basically.
Yeah, I mean, they could manufacture whatever they wanted to, but they couldn't walk in there and say, "We'll sell you this," because HSN hired Raw Essentials or signed a deal with Raw Essentials with Carol Alt, and we owned the brand and all the IP.
Okay.
And they developed the products, but we own those formulas because we paid the formulator to create those products. So they were just a manufacturer. They took the formulas. They did it. If they tried to sell those formulas to somebody else, it would have been bad.
So
So
you had a moat around your stuff. That's good.
yeah, but they were very honest. I mean, they were great guys. We would have never done it if we had any
Mhm.
hesitation. I mean, they were phenomenal. And then after we sold that business, which they also participated in the sale because they were shareholders, then I did some other things with them, um, and I had a great relationship with them long term. I mean, they were fantastic people.
Mm.
And then we had when I did the shaving business, we had the second largest razor company providing us with razors, and they were a partner in the business as well. To me, anytime you can get strategic capital, somebody who you're going to put in there, because money is expensive. It's taking money is expensive.
Mhm.
So because it comes with a whole bunch of strings, but money doesn't get you where you need to be. If somebody gave me, $200,000 to start a business, that's great. Okay, great. I can probably come up with something and I could start it. But I have a marketing backbone. I got an agency and I've got people, so I can make things happen with that. But also they're going to say, okay, well, we want, we expect a 5x return in 3 years. Whereas strategic business, strategic people, they're going to help you achieve where you want to go. It's not all on me, right? It's on they're helping me. I didn't know the intricacies of the shaving business. I saw the opportunity of what we wanted to do, but these guys understood razors and shaving and men and what triggers things. So those guys it was invaluable to us, more so than money. And that enabled us to scale faster.
That's cool. I like that. I hadn't really thought about a strategic partnership like that, where it's like, if you've got, I guess it's kind of like having two very different skills. If you can intersect them, you've got something that's maybe 5 times more valuable, right?
Yeah, because money just comes with a guy who's going to sit on your board and look at the numbers every month and question every bit about the numbers without understanding where you're trying to get to. Whereas when you have a strategic partner who's providing you with something of value, then they're helping you. They now have a vested interest. I'm a shareholder in this. I want to make sure that you succeed. And here's what I know. I'm providing you razors, so I'm going to make sure that you have the ones that you need. I'm going to make sure that you know what you're doing with them and how to do it correctly. And you take care of the marketing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. It's the best way to go, I think. But it took me getting beat up over the head a bunch of times to figure that out. I've made the mistake of borrowing money, getting investors.
You're not making me want to get investors, man.
You ask any entrepreneur who has ever taken investor dollars to scale their business, and they'll all tell you that, well, I would say probably 80% of them will tell you that they regret the decision or they did it too early. There may be a time when you need it. No, don't get me wrong. I mean, there could be a time when you need investor dollars, but I'm just saying that you have to be careful about the investors that you want. You want people that are going to help you grow the business, that understand the vision you have, not just giving you money for the sake of money, because that's worthless.
I feel like that's the classic story where the soul gets sucked out of the company and it just becomes something that nobody likes anymore, just to pump profits a little bit higher.
Sure.
Yeah.
Look at what's happening to Southwest. Southwest Airlines. I don't know if you know Southwest Airlines, but Southwest Airlines always been known for doing things differently. And now big venture capital groups, private equity groups have bought huge stakes in it. And now they're pushing the CEO to make all these changes and turn it into just a traditional airline. Charge for bags. You get a boarding pass with an assigned seat instead of having the cattle call. All these things that made Southwest great are going away. So it happens. Yeah.
Yeah. The idea of building something great and amazing and then seeing it just get ruined. I just don't want to, I really want to do this without getting an outside investor, if at all possible, or at least, not in exchange for equity.
Yeah, it's always possible. It all depends on the key to it all. The key to being in the driver's seat is to creating the growth, creating the brand and the growth. Right. If you can create the brand and the growth, then everybody wants to give you money and you can pick and choose. And you can pick and choose the terms.
I'm hoping to eventually crack word of mouth because, I've been able to generate sales by talking about it and putting out content in the past on other stuff like Pix Genie. But if I can make something that's just so awesome that it's like a no-brainer and all these screen printers are telling their friends, you've got to use this, like that's going to be the holy grail right there.
Well, I would say that it would be great if it worked that great. but I would say that you'll probably get a lot of business from that, but to scale, you're going to need to do something else.
Mm.
And that may mean, look, that may mean that, I know a guy who founded a company that provided specific software. I don't know all the intricacies of it, specific software to automobile dealerships. Okay. And it has something to do with inventory management and whatever it was, they needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically there were no other players in the market when he got into it, and he did it himself, and he went out there and hustled and sold to dealerships. And the thing that was good about that was that there's a lot of consolidation in the dealership. So you can hit one guy and he's got 50 dealerships, so you can get it in there. And he was able to scale over time. But then people came in and started whittling away at his business, stealing his customers, coming out with different products. But he was able to get there. But again, it took a long time, and it was a lot of hard work and going to auto shows and meeting with these guys and trying to do it. I mean, it's possible, but you still have to, you got to get. There may be a point where, there may be an inflection point where, you can get to a certain amount of the core audience, but you're going to need to push it up the hill a little bit to get it to roll down the other side. So
luckily there's not millions of screen printing shops. There's tens of thousands. So hopefully cold calling, that might be a way to do it. I don't know.
I mean, certainly there's automation tools that you can do to email these guys or reach out to them. You could always hire a virtual assistant to make calls, and certainly that works. Get them on meetings. You can do a lot of things. But again, some of that requires money. It requires work. It requires effort. You could put a sales guy out there to just go door to door for each one of them. But again, that requires money. You got to compensate the guy. You probably need more than one, but yeah, it's doable. You can do it. There's a lot of businesses out there especially SaaS products. There are a lot of them out there that did it without taking on any money, without taking on any investor dollars. I have a friend who has a nice app for social media, and he's done quite well for himself, and he's never taken investor dollars. So I'm not against it. I just think there's timing, huh?
Just the fact that people have done it just makes me know that it can be done. Like if somebody else did it, I can figure it out.
Yeah, it can be done. You just have to
take a while.
Yeah, it's a slower build. It's more hustle, and you have to be very strategic about how you go about it. And it's what you're really worried about is scaling faster. That's all money does, is it helps you scale faster. So if you're trying to protect what you have, right? Because it's growth at all costs. The money guys, all they care about is growth at all costs, because they don't want somebody else to come in and knock it off, right? So it doesn't matter if you're profitable or not. It's growth at all costs. So that's what money does for you. Yeah. But if you got a business that's profitable and you can just keep churning the profit into more customers, then you'll be fine.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. Once the core product is perfect, the MVP's out, I'm getting feedback on it. It's not perfect yet, but once it is, it's going to be, the volume under the curve is just going to keep growing and growing, and I can recycle that cash into sales and making the product better. I'm just really excited to get to that stage where instead of leveraging all of my time, I get to leverage dollars instead. It's going to be like playing chess at that point. And I'm looking forward to that, because right now it's more like running a marathon.
Yeah. But that's entrepreneurship. Whether you got the stamina to do it, whether you got the stamina to keep.
It's like running a marathon while you play chess once you get to that point.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun to get to that point. It's fun to lay out the plan and the path to get there and all the pieces that come with it. I think it's a lot of fun. That's why we stay in touch with so many startups, because to me it's fun. It's fun to watch everybody go. Dealing with bigger companies, it, they're boring.
Yeah.
They I in my opinion, in my opinion, they're not even well run. I look at I look at what happens every day. I read a lot, especially in the morning, and I look at, you know, what was a good one? Red Lobster is
Mhm.
going under, right? They're filing Chapter 11, and people are saying, "Oh, it's the economy." It's not the economy. When was the last time you went to a Red Lobster? I mean, it's disgusting.
It's
Nobody's been
a
there, and
long time.
yeah, it's not even good food. So why you've lost sight? They lost sight of the customer 15 years ago. It's just been a death spiral.
Hmm.
So now you're saying, "Oh, look at the dollar stores. Oh, the dollar stores are closing. It's the economy." It's not the economy. It's not the economy. What do they have to offer anymore that people can't get anywhere else? Bed Bath and Beyond, right? Bed Bath and Beyond went under. Everybody go, "Oh, it's the economy." It's not the economy. Bed Bath and Beyond, what can you get at a Bed Bath and Beyond that you cannot buy on Amazon right now and have it delivered to your door? And
Hmm.
Bed Bath and Beyond never embraced e-commerce until 2018. And when they did put up an e-commerce store, it was only to hand out the coupons. They were so coupon driven. And people sit there and go, "It's the economy, it's the economy, it's the economy." It's not the economy. When a business fails, if a successful business, the business has a run of years of success, and then it starts to fall, you can always go back to the decision that was made, and I can tell you when it was going to die.
Hmm.
That decision may take 7 years after that, but that decision is what killed it, right?
I wonder, I mean, I'm not experienced enough to say this for sure, but I feel like if you are sitting on a whole bunch of success with a business, it's very easy to get complacent, and then the
Sure.
hungry guys come and take your lunch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And they get arrogant, and um, they don't think that it can happen. They think that, we're going to do things the way we've always done them. I'll give you the best story. I'll give you the best story. There's a book about Amazon. I forget the name of it. I don't have it with me right here, but I'll, but it was about Amazon and the growth, right,
Hmm.
of Amazon in the beginning. And there was a period of time around 2001, 2002, where Amazon was really on the balls of its butt. It wasn't going to, might not have made it, right? Two things happened that made Amazon what it is today. The first one was Toys R Us did not understand e-commerce. So they said, "We're going to pay you." They paid Amazon for Amazon to run toysrus.com, right? They paid them. And then when they realized what they did 3 years later, they tried to sue Amazon, which unsuccessfully, to get to exit out of the deal.
Okay.
Because so here's Amazon now. They got all the toys, right? And Toys R Us was the biggest retailer, right? Amazon now is selling toys from Toys R Us, right? So they got paid to do it, several
Hmm.
$1,000,000. Okay, that gave them a cash infusion that they really needed at the time. So now they have all the Toys R Us customers, every Toys R Us customer. So now they've got that list. They can email, they can say, "Here, while you're buying your toys, buy these books, buy these CDs, buy these movies, buy all this other stuff." The second big event was Borders Books. I don't know if you remember Borders Books, a big book retailer,
Hmm.
huge, and all over the country, big retailer. And Amazon started out selling books online. So Borders Books had a CEO at the time that was looking at his balance sheet going, "I don't understand why we have this e-commerce store. We're not doing anything with it. It's a blight on my balance sheet. I got to get it off." So
Hmm.
what do? They go to Amazon. You take over the e-commerce business for Borders Books. So now I'm the biggest online book retailer, and Borders Books, the biggest physical store book retailer, comes to me and basically gives me their customers. They gave me their customers, right? I'm Amazon. Gave me their customers. And 3 years later, Borders Books is out of business, totally out of business.
Amazon kind of just got lucky, or else the
Yeah.
other guys got lazy. Combination of the both, it sounds like.
I think Amazon took advantage of some complacency and a lack of understanding of the future. Amazon knew what the future held, and those guys didn't. And so when they realized it, it was too late. And so, to your point about people get complacent, yeah, these guys thought that people were going to go to bookstores for the rest of their lives. They're always going to go to bookstores. Just like Blockbuster thought everybody was going to go and rent movies forever. They had the ability to buy Netflix. Blockbuster had the ability to buy Netflix with an offer. Netflix went to them. They could have bought it for $20 million. Blockbuster could have bought Netflix for $20 million, but they couldn't see the future.
That would be one heck of a deal. I don't even know what Netflix is worth now. They're insane.
Billions.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were running out of money and they needed an investor. And so they wanted to sell to Blockbuster. Blockbuster was like, why would I ever want to stream movies? I don't understand. People are coming to our store. We don't need that. So, I think you're 100% right. You get a string of success over a period of time. You get complacent. You think that nothing can affect you. And so it had nothing to do with the economy. People are still watching movies. People are still going out to eat, right? You can tell me all these restaurants that are closing and people are still going out to eat. They're just more choosy. So
there's another idea that I've been kicking around a little bit. Can I get your thoughts on it?
Sure.
Okay. So let's see. How would I describe it? So there's the idea that, once you get to that point, you don't want to get complacent, but then how do you get to that point? And I've noticed that there's a heck of a lot of competition in my space, kind of adjacent to it, not directly competing with me, but, in the same vein where it's like, it wouldn't be unthinkable for them to be kind of a bit of a competitor. But what I also see is a whole lot of not very well done stuff. And I feel like if you take the whole set of people that are working on problems in this space, and then you cut out the bottom 50%, and it's like, you just keep trying to find something that's actually good. I think, what am I trying to say here? I think that the amount of work that it actually takes to make something that is ready and worthy and is going to be able to blow up and scale is far greater than the work that it takes to just get started and get something out. So I'm almost thinking it might be kind of a game of last man standing in this part, in this beginning phase, where it's like, all right, who actually made the thing good? Who put all that time into making it right, instead of quitting when it didn't work this time, didn't work that time? What do you think of that last man standing theory?
I think it depends on the category that you're in, and it depends on how hot that category is. If it's not a hot category and there's not a lot of money being dumped into it, then you're probably right. There'll be the guy who makes the best product will wind up winning. But when you have money involved, right? If it's a hot category, streaming is a hot category, right? Doing shows like this or podcasts or whatever, it's a hot category. There's probably 15, 20 different software products out there that people can use. And there's a lot of money being dumped into it because it is a hot category and the growth curve is so tremendous. But there's a lot of crap out there. And are some going to fall by the wayside? Maybe, but some of them are raising so much money that they can throw a bunch of engineers on it to make it a good product eventually, right? And then there are guys out there with really good products that aren't raising capital, that are just happy with their customers, and and so I think it depends on the category. But
okay, that makes sense. I mean, the situation that I'm in is probably closer to the former, where it's not like I'm not going to say this is the next Facebook, because it is definitely not. There's a cap on how much can be made here, and it's like,
sure.
it might be that it's not such a big cap that giant VC guys, Y Combinator people, they want to go after it. So I'm hoping that means that last person standing, best quality product, is just by default the winner, because then I don't have to go raise money and fight for speed. I think that that's how this space is, but then again, I could be wrong.
Well, I think quality always wins. Quality when you build, and you want to focus on building a brand, because building a brands always win over products. And there are a lot of guys out there that are just building products. So you want to build a brand. You want people to say, oh, well, this guy solves problems in this space. And that's building a brand. So those always win. And again, it's not a category that I think there's going to be a lot of activity where you have to worry about competitors coming in and stealing. So I don't think that there's going to be a lot of competition in the space. And I think it's probably going to be a last man standing type of thing, because people want quality if they're going to spend some money. So yeah, that's my thought.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And it's kind of like, I really do think that people in that space, the screen printers, are going to go for the highest quality thing, because it's very much DIY. I think that's kind of the culture. They're probably throwing together their own websites, and they get to see the stuff they're using. They're not just like, hey, go buy this tool. It's like they're actually on the ground using it and seeing how it works. So you can't really hide. You can't hide a crappy product from them.
No, I'm sure that. But what's going to happen, in my opinion, what's going to happen is that you're going to start going down this path with your product and the screen printers. And then somebody is going to find your product and give you an alternative use for your product. And that's going to be that's going to send you down another path. And because I've seen that before. I've seen it where people start out with a product in a specific category. And then the next thing you know, somebody uses the product in a different way, and then they go, "Oh my God, that's an even bigger market." And so they become, they're still doing the main product, but then they've come up with an alternative product, and then they just keep doing it.
And if that new market turns out to be big enough and hot enough, then it's probably time to raise some funds and go for the finish line quick.
Maybe if they pay enough money, you never have to raise money, right? There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of guys out there that have put together some really great SaaS products that never raised a dime, because they've been able to leverage that sale. One of them is a product that sits on top of QuickBooks, and it's just an integration tool between Amazon and your website and QuickBooks, and pulling all the appropriate data. And I mean, they came up with it, and they sell it for, I think, I can't remember if it's, there's a main price subscription, but then you pay per seat, and then so it's profitable, right?
Those connector apps are big. I went to a TikTok shop developer conference not too long ago, and there's people that have apps that just take data from one place and they put it in another place, and it's like, you can make a lot of money doing that.
Oh yeah,
if you've got the right connections.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to come up with the right product. Listen, we're talking like crazy. We got 1 minute left.
Oh shoot. Okay.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, and it'll be interesting to watch your progress. And we'll probably have you on in a year and figure out where you're at, and see if you're in the same spot.
Oh, hopefully I'm in a better spot. Hopefully farther down the line.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Phil.
And if we have any screen printers out there, what's the name of the app?
It's called UltraQuote. You can check it out at getultraquote.com if you're interested.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. All right. I've got to run a quick one. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you paying attention. I appreciate you watching. Again, every week we've got a new entrepreneur on. Hopefully you found this informative and fun, and we'll see you next time.